Welcome to the Female CEO podcast, hosted by Mark Sephton. You may know her name, but do you know her story? This podcast takes you behind the titles and into the moments that shape some of today's most inspiring women. We explore the paths they've taken, the businesses they've built, and how they've created success on their own terms. Created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome, these are honest, human conversations, rooted in real experience. Let the journey begin.
Today on the Female CEO podcast, we are joined by Josephine Eneje, GPHR certified transformational leader and founder of Dame Jo, who is teaching us how to turn 25 years of corporate expertise into a soulful, legacy-driven empire. Great to have you on the Female CEO, Josephine.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure as well to be on the Female CEO podcast. Great pleasure.
It's incredible, because we're featuring some incredible women like yourself. I love the fact that it's touching on many continents on our planet. It gives us a great flavor of expertise and depth. And it's really great to be able to have your voice and to be able to tap into some of those 25 years of corporate experience that you've now used to your own advantage, creating your own company. I mean, it must be something that you're very proud of.
Sure, I am. Indeed, I am proud of it. Yes, you're right.
I normally when I ask a question, it's not normally so short-winded, but I kind of just want to ask you, what's one word for you that best describes the feeling of owning the room?
One word. I think I would go with purpose.
Because you're very much in the business of helping women own the room, aren't you? And so
Yes.
For you, when you say purpose, can you elaborate on that? Why is it purpose for you that really describes the feeling of owning a room?
Interesting question. So when I say purpose, it all starts from conviction, right? So for you to own the room, you have to come in with a purpose in mind. And purpose also stems from conviction. I usually cite an example. I think this is one of the easiest examples I can cite about conviction. And I had that conversation with somebody yesterday. Interestingly so. It was basically, I was telling the person about purpose and about conviction. Because for me, when I do whatever I do, it comes from a place of conviction. And that conviction drives my purpose. And what do I mean? So several years back, my example now, I'm sharing this. Several years back, there was this seasoning cube that was in the market, and all women, went about, everybody was buying it, using it. And I was using one or two different types of seasoning cubes before that one came out. And everyone was raving about it. Everyone around me buying those seasoning cubes. And I asked them a question. Why are you buying the seasoning cube? What is it about this seasoning cube that is making everybody go crazy? And no one could actually tell me why. And that goes back to the purpose, talking about conviction and linking it back to purpose. There's always the why. The why is very important to me. And no one could explain the why they were all going crazy about that seasoning cube. And because of that, I never bought it. I stuck to the ones I knew because I don't know why I should buy this one. So until one day, somebody, and that was after a long time, and then someone said to me, oh, have you tried these other ones are a bit saltier? This is less salty and it's more natural. And I was like, oh, okay, this could be an eye-opening moment. And I tried it, really. And based on that, I made the observation and found out that indeed this one had some more natural flavor to it than the other ones. And that became the why I started buying it. And for me, why is very important because that brings a conviction that also drives purpose. Why I wake up in the morning, why I do what I do, because it comes from a place of conviction. I have to be totally convinced about it. So yeah.
I think Josephine, and I'd love to know your thoughts. I think when people kind of follow like a fad, it's because most people want to belong because they don't feel they necessarily
Exactly.
belong to themselves, right?
Yeah.
But when
Yes.
you know yourself, you know that you don't have to follow, and jump on the
Exactly.
bandwagon because you already know your reason as to why you're making the choices you're making.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a
Yeah.
lot to do with it?
Yes, it does. Very, very true. Because you have to know. I mean, be your own person, not go with fads, not go with everything that is out there, because you go with the wind. Every wind of change that blows, you just go along with it. So that doesn't have, for me, it's not a sense of belonging. But when you have that conviction, and coming back to the point of owning the room. So when you know who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for, then you can go in with that purpose. You go in and you own the room. So talking about women owning the room, it's something that is very important to me, because in this day and age, I'm looking at workplace data about women, especially women in the workplace or in business. It's quite, there's a lot going on there. And women, because we also take in a lot, we are multifaceted. We wear several hats. Not to say that men don't, but a woman is multitasking almost at the same time, doing three things at the same time. It can be overwhelming sometimes. It takes an emotional toll on us. So we have to find that place that is our own, that place that is your own as a woman, that makes you feel comfortable about who you are. And then you step into the room and then you own it. Bring in your personality, bring in your conviction, bring in your purpose. And then you stand out and you own the room.
Now, you say we never start from scratch, Josephine. How did your 25 years in corporate specifically prepare you to build your own systems that you've built today in your own business?
Nice. Good question. Yes. So yeah, never starting from scratch is like you rightly said, it's 25 years of corporate experience. I could actually write 5 books or more, because each phase of my career is an experience of its own. I have seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I've been through it all. I've been at the peaks of mountains. I've also been down there in the valley in my career. So it's been a mix of everything. But all in all, there is this saying that when you're given a lemon, right, you make lemonade out of it. I say make lemon juice out of it. So exactly. So bringing everything together, it's been in the corporate world actually prepared me for entrepreneurship. That's it really, really prepared me. It built the skills that I have now. I see a bit of difference when I look out there. I can see how much influence that being in corporate has given to me. Like I said, I was within building systems. Now I'm building my own within systems. Now I am building systems and structure for my own business. But I learned that in corporate. I also learned that from my personal life, from my private life. Starting the organization, or rather my business, I can trace it back to the structure my mom built in me. So tracing it back, and a lot of people have asked me, why the name Dame Joe? Where is it coming from? And I tell them the story and they're like, oh, we understand you. So Dame Joe is coming from, my mother's name was Josephine. I was named after her. And then she built a legacy, which I followed more or less. Let me put it that way. My mom was a very resilient woman. My role model, actually. I learned a lot from her. The person I am today, I give her the credit. God used her to raise me into who I am today. Because like you said, purpose is something I pursue. And to be able to pursue purpose, you have to know who you are. And she helped me to know who I am right from a very young age. I think I knew what I wanted to do in life at a very young age. I was told about how curious I was as a child. When other kids were running away from school, I was running to school, surprisingly. So my mom was able to pick those skills. She was able to spot those talents in me, and she picked it up and she stoked the fire in me. And I think I can say today that I learned from my mom more from observation than from actually hearing, her speaking to me. So all of that influenced who I am today to be this resilient, strong-willed. I've heard a lot of people tell me I'm very strong-willed. When I go after something, I go after it. We just talked about, a situation where so many women are going for a seasoning cube. And I said, no, until I have my why, I'm not just going to follow fat. And I know there are so many other women out there that are like that too, who believe in purpose. And these are the women that I'm reaching out to, that I'm serving, who believe in purpose, who believe in what and who they are, and they go after it.
I think one of the things that really stood out for me, Josephine, there was the word observation, because I would have to admit that my grandfather never sat me down and taught me the rules of business or entrepreneurship, but it was just through me watching him. And you're saying the same sort of thing about your mum. It's very much about what you observed in her. Here's a great opportunity and also a challenge for all of us. We're all being watched. So we need to put more emphasis perhaps on not what we're actually teaching and writing and saying, but more about how we're living.
True. I totally agree. Yes. How we live is very important. And this is something that we have, in the circles that I belong in, women's, female circles, these are some of the things that we discuss amongst ourselves, that the most salient part of who you are to people is not what you say, is what you do. So people are watching, you think people don't observe. They're actually looking. Whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously, people are observing. So it's how people can actually tell you, oh, you are this, or you behave this way, or you behave that way. It's by observation. So observation is very key. It's crucial. And that was how I learned from my mom a lot, more than her sitting me down to say, oh, you do this, or don't do that, or do this. It was more of how I watched her run things, live her life, raise us in the family. That actually all helped. Observation is very important. Even in science, all the scientific explorations, they're mostly by observation. So yeah, it's a key thing in life.
It is. It really stands out actually on this podcast so far for me. You can write the books, you can write the articles, you can appear on podcasts, but who are you like behind closed doors? Who are you? And I'm challenged by it as well myself. But it's really interesting the fact that, if we've got children, they're mirrors. We wonder why they behave the way that they do.
Yes.
They're just mirroring back like what they've observed. And we have to be mindful of that.
Very true.
Now, you've already kind of touched on a little bit about, as a woman, there's a lot of pressure. It's multifaceted, especially if you're a mother and you're, say, a wife and you've got a business. There's lots more emphasis on the female species for sure. So for a woman who is currently like grinding and working hard and trying to keep it all together, how does she shift her mindset to see her leadership as a long-term legacy journey?
I think for me, there is something one of my bosses used to say. He's always saying, bring your whole self to work. You don't check your brain at the gates. Bring the totality of who you are to the workplace. So for women as leaders, it's kind of challenging, if you ask me, trying to separate yourself. You just bring yourself. And if you're a leader, you're a leader. You're a leader at home. You're a leader at work. You're a leader in your local assembly, wherever it is in society. That is just who you are. Leadership is not a mantle. It is something that is innate. And it just comes out of you wherever you go. So for a woman, wearing this hats and, multitasking, I think it's a natural thing with women. And it is not always easy, I must say, because sometimes you're at work, you get some phone calls from home, and you have to find a way of not letting yourself fall apart or the work fall apart. So women as leaders, I think generally we are already gifted, naturally gifted with that, being multitaskers, being able to bring things together and then lead. I know it's challenging, especially in today's environment, workplace, business, where there's a lot of pressure. Things are changing. The world is changing. Technology is developing, and there's a lot of things going on out there. So women coming together bringing yourself together it's not always easy. I can put it that way. Let me and I learned that from my mother. Let me go back a bit and tell you a bit of story. Like I said, why the name Dame Jo, where it came from. It's not just about observing my mother. It's also related to some very challenging times we had in our lives. So I was growing up and switching from having everything to having almost nothing was a big change for us. I was young. I was a teenager when that happened, but my mother had raised us in such a way that we were able to abase and abound. Even when there was plenty, she made us do things at home. She didn't make us become lazy, relying on housemaids to do things for us. We did stuff at home. She ensured that. I still recall, and I tell people that story a lot, how it's not these days when we have, what's it called, dishwashers. In my days growing up as a little girl, I'm talking about being like 5, 6, 7 years old. Dishwashers was not in every home by then. We didn't have one then, so you have to wash in your kitchen sink. So to tell you how young I was, my hands couldn't reach into the sink. That's to tell you how young I was. And my mom would say, put a platform, some kind of bench, let her get on it and wash the dishes. And so I did all of those things, and it felt like punishment for me. Why am I doing this when there are people who should do this? I did not know that she was raising me for tomorrow. And when things went south and we had to, live within our means, it wasn't so difficult to make that switch because she had already raised us from time to know how to be independent. And so when her times hit, I also watched my mom, fight. She fought for us, and I would listen to her. She fought. Honestly, that's a long story for another day, but I saw a lioness in her come out through all those years. She defended us, fought for us, made sure that we never lacked. At least the basic things in life, tuition was paid because education was something she never joked with. And then I look at all of that today, the sacrifices she made. I think it bothers down to that word, sacrifice, which she made just to make sure that her children survived. And this is my way of saying thank you to her for all the things that she did for us. And that's why I called it Dame Jo. And that's why the Dame Jo woman is a resilient woman. She's a passionate woman. She's a woman that is a goal-getter, a woman who does what needs to be done to ensure that, she gets to her goal. So women in general, leadership, female leadership, it's not an easy thing, but it's also something that is inside of us to do. So yes, we definitely will get there, and we're doing it.
It's beautiful. You got your mom as a real shining light, and you depict and shared some beautiful characteristics in her that I think obviously have been a mainstay in you. Now, when we think of like company culture, I think one of the beautiful things when we have our own company, our own business, is we get to really set the tone. And as a human transformation architect, Josephine, how did your HR background influence the way you designed the culture of Dame Jo?
Nice. Okay. So my HR background, out of the 25 years in corporate, most of it was in human resources. And so I started in learning and development. Then talent development came in before I went into the general human resources, touching on every aspect of human resources as the head of HR. And it helped me a lot because, today I am telling stories about the brand, and telling stories about the brand borders on learning, right? So I am telling people, educating more or less, let me put it that way. We're about to start we have blog series, but we are also going into some other platforms, other ways of educating people. Right. So my learning and development background, my HR, which of course is in human resources, helps me a lot in shaping that system. Because I, for one, in the beauty industry, there's a lot of education out there generally, but in the past it wasn't so. It was the big industries coming up with a product and they put it in the faces, put it in the market, put it on TV, put it on everywhere and on the shelves, and we just buy, right? We don't even know what's in it. We just buy and we believe that it's going to work. And yes, they're effective, no doubt. But these days, people are curious. People want to know more. This is the era of knowledge. So it's no longer enough to just put something in a bottle or in a jar and present to someone and say, hey, it's good for you. You have to tell me why and how is it good for me. So that education to let people know that the products you're putting on your skin, this is what is in it. I think it's very important that people know the content of what they're putting, because our skin is the largest organ of our bodies. Right. And it protects us. It shields us from the external elements. It protects all our internal organs. So it's important that we also take care of the skin. Right. We might just take it for granted, but it is a huge part of who we are as human beings. So it's also important that the way we are careful about what we eat is also the way we should be careful about what we put on our skin. So we are sure that we are putting on the right things. The same way you can't just take up, how do I put it? A cup of ethanol and just down, something, some kind of chemicals and drink it. It's also the same way we should be mindful of, what am I putting on my skin? Is it safe? It's not that chemicals are bad. There are safe ones, of course. So it's about that knowledge, that education, and also over and beyond what you're putting on your skin, because my brand is also so focused on anti-pollution. Now, when we talk anti-pollution, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is sunscreen. That's a lot. That's the major part of what we have been taught about, that is anti-pollution. But I think it goes beyond that. It goes beyond just slapping sunscreen on your body and moving. There's this whole thing. There's blue light now. We're talking about female leaders, right? The world now, there's a lot of technology out there. We are exposed to devices every day. I mean, we are here talking through devices. How do we protect ourselves from the blue lights that come from it? Yes, it's been there, all this argument out there that how much of it is actually good, but it accumulates over time, right? Because you're with these devices, you're with your phones. Some people have more than one phone. You have your laptop. We are surrounded by devices. So what appears to be little accumulates over time. How are we protecting ourselves from all of that? So education helps to bring this to the forefront. And that is where my HR experience comes in, that education is very key. People must know, right? And that is one system. Then again, right now I'm building something else. There's a program I'm building called Lab to Legacy. That is part of my HR experience, and not just my HR experience anyway, also my project management and change management experience all came in to help me build Lab to Legacy, which I am going to launch very soon, because I found out that I was able to launch my skincare brand much faster than the average. And so I look back, and I say that because I have cohorts, I have colleagues that I interact with. So I know how sometimes people are struggling to launch their brands. And so my HR experience, the resilience, the discipline, let me put it that way, it has helped me build, all helped me today to build my own business. Because putting in the structure is not easy, especially when you're starting out alone, right? You have to be the one. I mean, there's nobody, unlike in the corporate world where the structure is already there. You just come in, it's plug and play. You just have to follow the system and then you make your own contribution. Now you have to go out and be the one setting the system yourself, right? You have to be the one setting the system yourself. So all that discipline, the knowledge, the skills I gained from there, helped me to come in. And that's why I say I'm not starting from scratch, because I've already gained a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience that I'm bringing in. And that also goes to the model that I have built for the business. There are several business models out there. Some people are building to have legacies. for life. I've worked in a corporation that is more than 150 years old. Somebody started it. Yeah. Somebody started it, built it up to the stage. And it can happen again and again. That is repeatable. And so you build a legacy. So are you building a legacy, or are you want to be a serial entrepreneur that, you scale, you sell, and then you start again? It all depends on what your model is. So it helped me also design. I know the model I have set for the organization. I know the kind of workforce I want to have, right?
Yeah.
I know the kind of workforce I have. I have that model. I know how I want to scale the business globally. All of these are the things I got from my HR experience, because in human resources, it's not just about, people think that HR is all about recruiting and exiting people. No, HR is a huge part of strategy formulation in organizations, because people is key. I know automation is in now, and there's this whole story now, but you can't still take out the people element. And people are key to any organization's success. So when we hear about great companies, there's this book, I can't remember who wrote it now, Good to Great. Is it Jim Collins? I can't remember who wrote it, but Good to Great. It's talking about companies, good companies moving from good to great companies, what actually makes a company great. And you cannot talk about great companies without talking about the people element. And so as the head of human resources, part of my role was sitting at the strategy table with the MD and a few of the C-suite members, and we strategize about the organization. We look at the demand and the supply. What supply do we have? What demand do we need in the next 3 years? Where are we going to? What is the organization's? We always have this organization goals that stem from the HQ. It trickles down to every local organization. So you pick it up, and then you also do your own strategy formulation for the next 2 to 3 years. Where do we want to go to? Thankfully, I was in a role in an organization that was expanding at the point. And so we needed to expand hugely. I mean huge expansion. It was really huge. And then HR was at the table from the very beginning. People were key, because this expansion, you can't do it without people. Automation is there, no doubt, but we needed people. So we looked at our demand and our supply, right? And then what kind of workforce are we looking for? What kind of skills and talent do we need to scale? So all of these experiences helps me to come back and also build my own organization, to sit back and strategize and say, okay, today, this is how it's going to look like. In the next 2 years, how do I want it to look like? In another 5 years, what's it going to look like? And what will it take me to get the company from where it is today to where it will be in the next 5 years? That came from HR.
Beautiful. It's always good, I think, when we go through experiences that we take the best bits and that we put our own expression into them so that it really serves the greater good. You started to talk a little bit about this skincare company that you have created in a world that demands we are always on. Why is skincare such a powerful tool for self-remembering and reclaiming presence?
Yes, skincare has always been put out there as something that is just aesthetic, something that is, what would I use now? Something that is not deep, right? Something that is shallow. That's the way skincare and beauty has been seen. But that's changing, because skincare is beyond the physical. Skincare is now becoming emotional. And what do I mean by it becoming emotional? Is that we have, the world is, there's a lot of innovation coming up. For instance, essential oils. I don't know how, if you know so much about essential oils, but essential oils are used in aromatherapy, right? You want to calm your nerves. You want to have, ignite energy. You want to feel warm. There are different essential oils for those purposes, right? So all of those emotional angle comes into play. For instance, the likes of orange essential oils, citrus oils in general, are known to help with energy, right? It gives you that spark. In the morning, you have when you inhale orange, what do you think about? Just when you smell orange, doesn't it give you doesn't it bring a smile to your face? It does. Like when I inhale orange, I smell, or whether it's in a juice or essential oil or even a cream, and you open the jar and the smell is just so nice. It puts a smile on your face. It's emotional, right? It brings that little spark into your day and brings a smile. Some people will perceive something and say, oh, it reminds me of something my grandma used to cook. For instance, cinnamon, a blend of cinnamon or, with nutmeg. And people say, that reminds me of my grandma's pie. Those are all emotional. So it kind of puts you in a mood. For instance, we have a product that we designed specifically for morning use, because these are the things that we want it to do. Now, skincare is something that we're particular about. I mean, there are so many regulations out there on how we make claims because of the definition of skincare, by regulation, especially in EU, where skincare is heavily regulated, right? So you don't go about making some specific claims and say it will do this, but it can support. It can help to ignite that good feeling in you. And you can imagine waking up in the morning and you smell coffee. Wow. If you're a lover of coffee, do you love coffee, Mark?
I do. It doesn't always love me. Sometimes it makes me feel anxious, but I do love the smell. And I did have one recently and it was beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who don't like coffee, who drink tea. I was told of a couple who, they don't drink coffee, by the way. They're not coffee drinkers. But the aroma of coffee is so enticing to them that they bought the coffee machine and every morning they just put it on and make coffee. They don't drink the coffee. They just want the house to be filled. And the day I heard that, I laughed. They said, yeah, they just love the aroma. They don't drink it at all, but the aroma alone just ignites something good in them. So they just fill the house with the smell of fresh coffee, and they inhale it and they're okay.
Cheaper ways, isn't there? It's probably cheaper ways, Josephine, to get the smell of coffee without buying a machine.
Exactly.
Funny.
Yeah. So yeah, all of this, there's this connection between skincare in a way. When I say skincare, I'm making it generic, but certain elements to emotion. It helps, it supports to ignite that. So we are going beyond, the world is going beyond just seeing skincare as something that is just, on the surface. It's something beyond that. It's something that is emotional, that helps us.
Yeah. It reminds me actually of a conversation we had when I said to you, I put like perfume on, even though you can't smell me.
Exactly.
Even, right? It's about the association that we have. You were talking about orange, how it reminds you of your grandma's pie. For me, like one of my favorite products is called Orange and Cedarwood. It's by Rituals. They're not sponsoring the show, but if they want to, they can. But it's just that sense of quality. But it's almost like it tells your mind, you're safe, you feel good. At least with the perfume, when I put it on before a podcast, it's saying to me, I'm ready to show up in my best self.
Yes, that's it. Exactly. Yes. So this is a knowledge now. This is something that people are becoming aware of, that this is how skincare can actually help us. So for the working woman whose day is hectic, who actually wakes up to a busy schedule.
Yeah.
Using some of these fragrances. And I know that not everyone, there are people who are sensitive to some of these skincare ingredients, so they don't want any form of fragrance. But that still does not deny the fact that these things do this for us.
Exactly.
Right. The connection is there. Yeah.
We've only got a few moments left, Josephine, but I've got two questions that I want to ask you before we wrap up. So the first one is, what is the one thing you really want the next generation of female founders to know about the link between the inner fulfillment and business success? Because we're talking about how skincare isn't just about how you feel and look on the outside, but also on the inside too.
Okay, so the link between business and fulfillment, right?
Yeah, inner fulfillment and business success.
Yeah. So talking about business success in general, not skincare, because not every woman will go into skincare. right? But a lot of women might decide to go into entrepreneurship to own their own thing and, build their own legacy. So for me, the first thing there is that self-fulfillment has to come from what you love to do. And I remember several years ago, my husband said to me, never go into a business you don't know anything about. In other words, don't go into something you're not passionate about, because if you're not passionate about it, you won't even bother to learn about it in the first place. So it must come from a place where you are passionate about it. Skincare for me wasn't something that just started yesterday. It started, I tell people, I think I opened my eyes to see skincare, and they laugh, and they were like, what do you mean? I said, I think as a newborn, at the moment I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was makeup. Why do I say that? Because my mom loved cosmetics a lot. She and her sister, they were into cosmetics. So as a little girl, I watched my mom's dresser table with all the beauty products lined up. I mean, as a child, I was fascinated. I would look out, stare at all of those bottles, endlessly. And I think my mom picked it, and we made a pact. And she told me, you're not going to touch this until you either turn 16 or you finish high school, whichever comes first. Then you can go into, trying whatever you wanted. And that was the deal. She saw that spark in me. And I didn't say, I just don't know. She actually told me that. She said, no makeup for you until you get to this age or you graduate from high school. And then when one of them happened, I think I graduated high school before I was 16. So I had the liberty to start experimenting. So I think it's something that is in my DNA. My mother also loved it. She and her sister were into all of, so it's part of me. And that goes back to say, go back and trace why you want to do what you want to do, right? So I grew up loving it, being fascinated about it. I remember that when we used to go on road trips, I'll sit in my dad's car behind and I'll be watching the green lands, the herbs, and I wondered what is in these things. And today, I'm into natural skincare, and I look back and I see the beginning, the traces of it, because now I'm fascinated into natural things. What do we get out of this that helps us, not just only in medicine, but also in skincare, right? And then sometime in 2014, I dabbled. I just tried to do something which failed woefully, and I packed it up. But in 2021, it came up again. So where am I going with this is that it always has to start with passion. If a woman wants to find self-fulfillment in what she does, in the business she wants to set up or the enterprise she wants to set up, she has to trace the source and make sure that it is something she's passionate about. Because if she's not, it's going to fall apart somewhere along the way. You burn out.
Yeah.
But if it's something you're passionate about, you go for it with everything in you. So that self-fulfillment is a key part of, running an enterprise.
Yeah, that's really good, Josephine. My last question then is, what is the best thing that men can do to help women be more visible?
Now, Mark, I don't think you want us to leave in the next 10 minutes, because I have a lot of stories to tell in that aspect.
You have to be as precise as you can be.
Yes, I can. I am a typical, my own experience is a typical example of how men can support women to be who they want to be, because my husband has done that for me. I recall a role I had to go for that was away from where we lived. And when I asked my husband, for months, I just didn't want to look at it. People asked me, why don't you go for this role? This suits you. We see you in this role. And I was like, no, my family is here. I can't relocate to another state to go take a job. And 3 months down the line, and someone asked me again to say, why are you not going for this role? We see you. This is a job cut out for you. And so I decided, and it was like a light bulb moment for me. And I got home that day and I asked my husband, I said, well, there's this role in the organization, and this where I just told all the stories and gave all the excuses myself. And you know what he said to me? He paused for a moment or two and he asked me, do you want it? It was a simple question. Do you want it? And I went about rambling. And he asked me again, I asked you a simple question. Do you want it? And I said, yes. And he said, go for it. And so for 3 years, I was away from my family in another location because my husband supported me. In everything I do today, he supports me. Actually, today, he left work on time just to come home to help me set up.
Sounds like a great husband.
Yeah. So
That's beautiful
it's
stuff.
very important. Yes. And that's my own example. And I know that women, we need that support from our spouses. We need that support from, I get it. And that's why
Yeah.
I can say it.
And as a man, just hearing that story, there's two things that came to mind. The first is what a woman wants actually from a man to help her be more visible is first to pause, because you said that your husband paused for a moment, so he really listened and paid attention to what you were saying, and then he asked you, is it straight that you want, which is actually, if we care about the women in our life and we actually listen to what it is that they're trying to say to us or what they're communicating and create that space, but not just that space, but that support, that's really where, women are seen. And as man and woman working together, we can get the best out of each other. Josephine, how do people find out more about you? Where do they go?
So I'm on LinkedIn. Josephine Eneje. I'm on LinkedIn. They can find out more about me there. And then more about my enterprise or my business is on Danger, www.danger.com. They get to learn more about what I am doing. But on LinkedIn, you find out even beyond Danger, because I have, like I said, I mentioned a program that is coming up, Lab to Legacy. So everything I put on my personal profile on LinkedIn. So that is how people can learn more about me.
Great. Josephine, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Female CEO podcast.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Female CEO podcast, created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome. This podcast amplifies women's voices, stories, and lived experience. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our YouTube channel, and discover more at thefemaleceo.com.